The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in a rev. And what do? We start off with our new update.
Our COVID count.
COVID.
There were 6 new positive cases in Fall River yesterday, bringing the total to 1,549. There was another new death, bringing the total to 90 deaths in Fall River. Total state cases 106,422. Total deaths is 7,770. Bristol County is 7,979. There are only 271 new cases in Massachusetts and 36 new deaths.
Yeah, well, those statistics again. Actually, this morning I heard that they're getting more cases, but actually hospitalizations are only 25% of what they were at the height of this pandemic. So I see there we have conflicting numbers. And is it because we're testing more people? We're finding, but I don't know. The hospitalizations are down dramatically.
Well, and the thing is that depending on the state you're looking at, there are spikes in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and I mean, they're huge spikes, sometimes exceeding 2,000 new cases a day, and the hospitalizations are up. As a matter of fact, I think I saw a story a few minutes ago about the fact that ICU beds are full in Florida, and they have no ICU beds available. And you have to think about that for a moment. If there was that much of a spike in Florida that the ICU beds are now all filled, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. Yeah. And people are still going to Florida thinking, hey, it's going to be great. Everything's open. Well, everything's open and it's costing people their lives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the problems with this whole thing, CJ. There are so many other factors that have to be put in because, we have a tree and then we have a whole forest full of other underlying issues. Florida, if you look at that state, I would say that if we do a in-depth study of the average age group, a lot of retirees, a lot of elderly people live in Florida. A lot of people with pre-existing conditions live in Florida because they are elderly. It's a place where many of the people are older. There are a lot of retirement communities down there. A lot of people retire to Florida. So obviously, if they get it, they're going to be more severe. Also, but we don't know how the hospital, how many hospital emergency rooms are set up for a pandemic in any state. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. And, the bottom line with this thing is that I keep saying it, and at least my opinion, and I'm not Dr. Fauci by any means, that, he doesn't want the NFL to play. But, my thing is if you do what they told you initially, like keep your distance, wash your hands, if you did what you did, and only have contact that's necessary, you're doing the best you can regardless. And that's one of the problems we have. Nobody's doing it. Like I said, the basketball court was loaded at BCC. Now they cleaned it up. I was talking to one of the guys up there, and they said, well, we had to chain the gates open because they were breaking into the basketball court anyway. So, we have a society of people who only obey laws when they want to, and they're in their interest. And if they don't like laws, they just ignore them.
Right.
They expect no consequences. And the problem with this country is, if you go to Japan and these other places, when the government gives out a directive, most people follow it because there are consequences. But in this country, you have to social distance unless you're conducting a left-wing riot, and then it's okay. The media will actually encourage it. They'll film it. They'll give it 24-hour coverage of people violating the law. You can burn, you can loot, you can do anything you want, as long as it's, we have lost our ability to control society because we're no longer a nation of laws. We're not a nation of laws when you only abide by the laws you want. And that's what's happening in today's society. We see it all the time, and we're seeing it to a obscene level now.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I had posted on Facebook, because people were saying we want the basketball courts back. BCC open theirs. Why can't Fall River open theirs? And I turned around and says, yeah, but the people used to break into BCCs, and that's why it got chained open. But the people are pigs, I said. They left all this stuff all over the place. And we talked about this on Wednesday show. And who cleans that up? The BCC maintenance people have to clean it up. So the state, the taxpayer is paying for people to be pigs, and that's not right. And personally, I believe that BCC should have locked down those courts, both the tennis courts and the basketball courts, left them locked down, and make sure that they stay safe and clean for the use of the students. That is not a public place. That is not a public park.
You're right. And the thing is, if they really didn't want anybody to play there and they were really serious, they should have taken the rims down.
Like they did in Fall River.
You can't play basketball without a rim unless you want to nail a peach basket like they did when they originated basketball. But the reality is, take the rims down.
Right.
And because if you leave the rims there, I mean, look, all you got to do is go to a supermarket every day. Every time I go to a market, I get irritated because there are more people walking the wrong way against the arrows. Now they've even got a commercial to Stop and Shop asking people to please obey the directions. But that's ridiculous. We have a society of people, they don't care. These millennials they live in the basement, but they want to control the government. They want to control the world. They want everything for free, and they don't care. If they don't like it, they don't obey it. They should be reminded of what Martin Luther King once said. He said, if you disagree with the law or you disobey it, be prepared to go to jail.
That's it.
You still, if you disobey a law and you're doing it as something to show you disagree with the law, well, be like Nelson Mandela. But nobody wants to be Nelson Mandela. Would he spend 30 years in jail, or nearly 30 years in jail to fight apartheid? But he ultimately prevailed and became a Nobel Peace Prize winner and a historical legend, because the man was willing. Gandhi didn't burn and loot. Gandhi got beat over the head with clubs, got his head cracked open, and peacefully protested. He began in South Africa, and the thing is, he did it in India, and he changed an entire culture peacefully. So you can't convince me this can't be done if we do it the correct way.
Well, the problem is,
this is a political statement. They want this country to be in total chaos so they can get rid of Trump. That's the reality.
And here's my position. Okay, people are just stupid. I mean, bottom line is, people are just stupid. And when you tell them, because I've done that a couple of times in the market, I've said, "Excuse me, but you realize they have signs on the floor and on the end of the counters there that say, 'Travel this way, do not enter.'" And I've actually been told, "Mind my own effing business. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything. I don't care about it. I'm going to do what I want to do, and nobody's going to tell me what to do." And I turned around and said, "Well, do you go the wrong way on a one-way street?" And they just don't answer me, and they walk away. They get very, very upset. Hey, I just learned, don't open your mouth. It's not worth it.
Yeah, well, the problem is, but there are no consequences in the stores. There's only one person, and I commended him because he told people to turn around. They were going the wrong way down the alley. Was working in stocking shelves, and I said, "Well, congratulations. You're the only person I've seen that actually But this is the problem with the nation now. We've forgotten. We want to erase history because anything we don't like, we don't want to. We're going to pretend it never happened and think that somebody's not going to do that to us at some point in time. Just look at we're going to take down statues. Words are now hurtful. Hurtful words are now criminal. And that's not true. The Constitution gives you the right not to yell fire in a crowded room, but you can say anything you want. If you have a divergent opinion, that's your constitutional right, and you can say words that people may be offended by. Well, many people, including most Jewish people, are offended by the American Nazi Party. But the Supreme Court upheld their right to demonstrate and spew, racist issues. You can look, not saying you agree with it, but you ignore them or work against them. But in today's society, the left can burn things, loot things, kill people. They're allowing, like that guy in New York, he knocked down a 92-year-old woman, and he had like 100 charges on him already. So what's de Blasio going to do? He's going to let him go. No bail, no nothing. He stiff-armed a 92-year-old woman. So
yeah, I saw that on the national news.
It's reprehensible, and the same people who complain that they have the freedom to basically destroy our nation, you do not have the right to say anything they dislike, because then it's hate speech, and they want you to. Well, guess what? I hate to tell you this, but hate speech should not be a crime, because you have a constitutional right to be a fool. And if you want to spew that stuff and people want to listen to you, well, that's on them. But if people of sound mind and a modicum of logic get together, those things don't go very far. They do not pick up traction.
True.
But in our society, the lunatics are now running the asylum. And the lunatics elect other lunatics, like that imbecile in Seattle who still says that shop and Chaz and whatever euphemism you want to call it, the bunch of nitwits that are taken over. And at night they're running rave parties and stuff like that, and they're driving everybody. So Seattle's going to be destroyed. They're going to destroy the city of Seattle. And she says, no, it's just like a street festival. It's the summer of love. Well, according to the people in that thing, it's not the summer of love.
Are we in 1970?
Yeah, we've got, look, the nation has become delusionary, and it's being contributed to by the mainstream media, because they cover them and they suppress news. They won't show you or comment on it, or they try to apologize for it or rationalize that type of behavior. Every news media, regardless of whether they're left, right, or in the middle, should be condemning burning people's businesses and attacking people who have a different political view. That's just not right, because this country is quickly and rapidly turning into a third world country. And if they get their way, and this is the way we're going to run our government, we're going to have warlords and no ability to control that element.
We're going to have Mad Max.
That's right. It's going to be like Mad Max.
Exactly. Well, and an interesting thing, we had spoken briefly about Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci just made an announcement that widespread lockdowns are no longer needed in the United States. Dr. Anthony Fauci said in an interview Thursday that the United States does not need any kind of return to widespread lockdowns to contain the coronavirus. The longtime head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease told agency France Presse, or the French press agency, that officials are aware that the daily infection numbers have remained flat as states open up. But public health officials will handle local outbreaks in ways other than the mass open-ended lockdowns of March and April. I don't think we're going to be talking about going back to lockdown, he said. I think we're going to be talking about trying to better control those areas of the country that seem to be having a huge surge of cases. So it's interesting that all of a sudden now, Anthony Fauci has done a total 180-degree turn, and now he's saying, hey, we don't need mass lockdowns anymore.
Yeah, you're right. But then you look at it on one hand, and yet they're saying no mass lockdowns, but then we have certain governors and mayors who are just, and that's one of the problems. They ignore everything. They only do what they want to do. They only obey the laws and the directives that they want, and they ignore the rest. And I think we got to start with the mayors and the governors who murdered over 50,000 people in New York. I think there was 50,000 deaths in nursing homes, and Cuomo's trying to make an excuse, but he ordered COVID positive 19 patients into nursing homes, and people who had no COVID got COVID and died. The most vulnerable population we have to the COVID virus, and a governor mandated nursing homes to take these patients in. And yet there's no accountability. That's the problem. We have no accountability for corrupt politicians, stupid politicians, which is almost an oxymoron because, it's like most of them are obviously stupid because they get a real job. But the fact is that this is the kind of stuff that goes on. There's no accountability. Like in Atlanta, we got a corrupt DA prosecuting a case based on political expediency and his re-election campaign rather than the facts. And it's causing even more dissension. The fact is that what we have to do is deal with each individual case as an individual case. And this mob psychology crap is destroying the country because everybody's afraid to offend the mob. Why? Because it's an election year. And they want that mob to run to the polls and vote against anybody who has the audacity to attempt to have them live like civilized human beings.
Speaking of voting, Mike Rodrigues announced yesterday that they passed the bill for mail-in voting this year. Now, allegedly, the mail-in voting will end December 30th, but we now have mail-in voting. And according to what I read briefly in the bill, the Secretary of State is required to send out letters to every registered voter and applications for a mail-in ballot. I think that's going to create a problem, personally, because here's the kicker. There is no more money for city election departments to handle this type of balloting. They're going to handle it just on their own budgets because the state has no money.
Well, my only comment on that process is I have one comment. Can you say Mayor Daley? And for all of you who don't know who Mayor Daley is, check out Chicago. The mayor that got elected when every election thousands of dead people voted for him.
Oh, what? That's a problem?
Look, I agree with absentee ballots for a valid reason. Fauci's now saying we don't have to quarantine ourselves, yet we can't go to the polls. I mean, they can socially distance the ballot boxes. You can have you can make a mechanism, but I don't care. I mean, obviously there are people who need absentee ballots, and I would not deny the right to vote to anybody because I think that's one of our greatest, and we don't use it properly. We know that because we keep saying drain the swamp, and the swamp just keeps getting deeper. But the reality is that if you got a valid reason for an absentee ballot, get an absentee ballot. But just to make it more convenient and use this pandemic as a guide, there's far more ability to manipulate absentee these mail-in ballots. You're mailing in ballots. How many people do you know that don't live at the same address? How many people do you know that don't, that they don't fill out the census? They don't do all
Right.
things by mail. The reality is, this is a fiasco waiting to happen. This is kind of like the Iowa caucuses.
Yeah.
This is like a disaster waiting to happen.
Now, Mike Rodrigues thinks it's a wonderful thing, and so do some of his supporters. But I made it very clear that I think that this is going to open this up to potential fraud and problems. But I'm the naysayer as usual. But it was very interesting to find out something that a lot of people didn't know. I found out yesterday, and you're going to love this, and you can explain it better than I can. Did you know that our Fall River parks get a water bill?
Oh yeah, that's one of the scams that our financial team and Mary Sahadi does all the time when she plays around with numbers to try to look at it. Just like they do the same thing with the health care. Well, we're going to give the school, put it in their budget. It's fine, you can put it in their budget, but let's not pretend it's actually there. The health care. Well, okay, you got to pay so it's in their budget to reflect how much the city is spending. But all it is telling you how much they get out of the total group accumulation, because it's a group plan. Because then it gets manipulated for their narrative. Because now they say, well, the school department's running over budget for healthcare. No, they're not, because they're part of the group. Now, this is what they're paying for the premium, and only the premium. It's got nothing to do with the actual healthcare costs. And that's the scam. Did I explain that clear enough? Is that hard to understand, CJ?
No, I got it. I got it totally. But here's the kicker: the water
bills and the electric bills. It's just ways to show costs.
Right. Now, here's the kicker, though. The park board does not receive a copy of any water bills. And they just got hit with a $220,000 stormwater fee bill. $220,000. Where's the park board supposed to get that when they get $2,000 a park? And that's it. Who's paying for the water? Now that the city wants to do this, so Mr. Mayor, I want you to listen to this very carefully, because I think you need to hear it. You don't give the park board the money in their budget to pay these fees. They don't get any $220,000 to pay for a stormwater fee. So if they don't get that, how can you turn around and say to the public, well, we'll open the splash pads, because the park board doesn't have any money. And when they've requested the bills, they were told that they can't get the bills because of the way the city bills water. Which I think is bull.
Well, it's all bull. Because now the park board should go before the city council and say, we want to revise our budget to reflect it. Because what's the mayor doing? He wants the park board to begin to charge $500 if you want to have a little league game to generate income. And that's one of the problems, because this is not supposed to be a business where we generate income. We provide services. That's what our tax dollars are for. And Mary Sahadi is a master at that. And I can tell you that she went to the building department and was complaining about they were behind in how many permits they were selling or giving out. And she had to be told, because the bean counter that she didn't understand that permits have nothing. It's not widgets. You're not selling widgets. We don't have a mobile permit van driving around selling everybody permits in the city of Fall River, building permits. You get a building permit when you build something. And she was using the year that Amazon came in, and they had hundreds of thousands of extra dollars in, and she expected that every year. So tell me that's fiduciarily accurate. She manipulates numbers, always has. And as far as I'm concerned, she's an incompetent. I don't care what they say about her on WSAR. I got 30 years of her mistakes to show. And I'll tell you what, I would be glad they going to do? The park board should declare bankruptcy, go into receivership, throw themselves on the mercy of the city, because this is BS. It's all numbers on a paper that are not really relative. The city has to pay for water.
But
has to pay for electricity in all their buildings.
I think a bigger issue is the fact that you cannot get a water bill on a park, so that the public, I'm not talking the park board, I'm talking the public can see how they're billing this. Because as you and I both know, this is moving money on paper. This is a paper shuffle.
Yeah, that's exactly right, CJ. All this is what did they actually say under oath where they asked if they did an audit? No, it wasn't. It was a reconciliation or a recreation. Under oath, they basically said what they do is just make the numbers fit.
That's it. That's
And
it.
if you're thinking the numbers fit, it means that it's bullshit. And that's what it is. All this stuff is bullshit. For them to get justify their tax increases and their debt overrides, and we've heard it before, just like Fauci now saying you don't have to, you're contradictory. Well, remember, they swore up and down when we were fighting against the debt override that they absolutely needed it. And what happened as soon as it got passed? They admitted they didn't need it.
Exactly. But the problem is that the vote is too stupid. The voter is too stupid, and that's the problem. And that's a big problem. And when that happens, we get what we want. And when you elect stupid, you get stupid. It's that simple. Stupid begets stupid.
The call is going out. We want people to run for city council. CAG will be trying to get rid of this charter, get rid of some of the things, and maybe even an underride if we're looking at a debt. If we're looking at a debt override, we might be looking at an underride to go along on the same ballot. Let's see what the people. Let's see if everybody is fed up with them. Never ever tighten their belt like you have to do in your house and in your budget. And let's see if everybody's fed up.
Oh yeah, that would be nice to see. That's for sure. Well, looks like we're coming to the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for watching this weekend. Have a happy Father's Day, people, and enjoy your cookouts or whatever. And remember, your father, whether he's living or dead. Sadly, my father passed away a couple of years ago, and just remember the good times. And remember, stay angry and stay safe.
Yeah, and to my children, I will accept presents.
Preferably cash.